how good is this kid, Dan?
For a young Brazilian player coming over and playing in the Premier League, I think he's doing extraordinarily well.
If you're choosing between the two, Estevao's got to start going forward.
Estevao is a player who deserves to have the licence to roam free, and you see him sometimes come in centrally as well and get involved in different areas.
Hello and welcome back to the Chelsea Blueprint. I'm Lloyd Canfield, back in the hot seat. You had Kweku Afari last week, and I'm joined by Dan King and Nina Hristova for this week's episode. So I'm back from my trip to Vegas. Chelsea are back with a win away from home at Crystal Palace. How are you guys, and were you at the game? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I was at the game. I thought it was probably one of Chelsea's better performances this season in the league, certainly against one of the teams from further down in the league, and I think there's good reason why the fans were giving Rosenior a bit of love at the end of the game, because they're showing signs of improvement.
Nina, what do you think?
Yeah, I certainly enjoyed watching it. I think it was probably the better performance when you put the football we played against Paphos and then Brentford. I thought it was quite dire. We got the results, but I think against Crystal Palace, we definitely put on a better showing. Shame we didn't get the clean sheet, though. I thought we let Robert Sanchez down because he had a brilliant goalkeeping display. But yeah, 3 points. We're on a run now. Do
you think a 3-1 result flattered Chelsea a bit, or did you think it was more than deserved?
Well, they were pretty ruthless with their... they didn't. I think the expected goals, I think it was closer than that. In fact, Palace might even have had, because of that early Mateta chance, might actually have had better expected goals. Yeah. But I think in terms of taking the chances, and let's be clear, the first 2 goals, although there are elements in both of poor old JD Canvo making different types of error, but both players still had a lot to do to score. So I think that's a tribute to their ability to take advantage of those opportunities. But I think what was also significant, apart from that ruthlessness in front of goal, was, apart from that Badiashile cock up early on, apart from that, they weren't really threatened too much, Chelsea. I think they were pretty comfortable defensively.
And it's the first win away from home since, I think, November 21st, when Chelsea beat Burnley. Back-to-back wins in the league for Liam Rosenior, which hasn't happened since November as well. How important now is it? Obviously, Rosenior's had a really good start to life at Chelsea. How important is it now that they can build on that? Obviously, Napoli coming up, and then a pretty favourable run of fixtures in the league.
Yeah, really important. I think now more than anything, we've all said we'll look away from the performances. We need the results because of how poor our run in December was. We carried it through into the beginning of January. So actually we looked at Rosenior and said, just get over the line, buy yourself that time to implement your ideas now, work with the team, but just most importantly, get the wins. And he's done that now. So I guess, it's going to be some time we say we can trust you, Rosenior, and we like you. I don't think we can really build affinities with managers anymore. But what we will say is he's completed the job. We've scored the goals, we've kept the clean sheets. Now, more than anything, we need a consistent run. And as you say, Lloyd, it is favourable on paper. But with Chelsea, how favourable is it ever going to be? But yeah, we need a bit of a run now. So this momentum, it needs to count for something.
I think someone who's going to be really important, and watching the game yesterday was just incredible, is this guy. We've got his shirt on the table here, Estevao. I spoke to Andre Santos yesterday after the game, and he was heaping praise on him, comparing him to the likes of Neymar, who obviously in his native Brazil he's been compared to a lot, breaking all those records coming over from Brazil. He has simply got to start for me going forwards for Chelsea. He's obviously competing with Pedro Neto on that right-hand side. Neto played on the left. I don't think he's as effective on the left as what he is on the right. But I think if you're choosing between the two, Estevao's got to start going forwards. How good is this kid, Dan? No,
as I said, that first goal, he picks up that ball in his own half, and fair play to him right from the start. He's managed to get the wrong side of Mitchell straight away, and just the intelligence of the way he runs in that diagonal. He judges it exactly right. He knows he's got Mitchell for pace, but he doesn't give him any opportunity to hook his leg round and get the tackle. And then the finish is almost the most impressive part of it. Obviously, the lung-busting run is great, but he absolutely... I was going to use the wrong word then. He absolutely drills it past, Henderson, who's a decent goalkeeper. He's absolutely no chance, and the fearlessness of him is huge. But you're absolutely right. I mean, Rosenior was very keen, much like Maresca was, to sort of play down the expectations. Say, he's 18 years old. I want him to have a really good career and a really good whole season, not just a really good January or whatever else. But he's he's not quite breaking Chelsea records, but for a young Brazilian player coming over and playing in the Premier League, I think he's doing extraordinarily well. And I think all Chelsea fans would like to see him at least starting a few more games, because he'd started, I think, only 3 away games before this one, and one of those was because Cole Palmer got injured in the in the warm up. So I think there are certain, he's got to choose the right games for him, and I'm not convinced that Napoli Wednesday is the right game for him to start.
Yeah.
And you have to remember also as well that when he's come on as a sub, when Neto has run up and down, as I said before, and tired out the left back, if you then bring Estevao on, it's like, oh, Jesus, no, I've got Estevao to mark, and he's a great finisher as well.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that West Ham game, the one away from home, when Cole Palmer got injured in the warm-up and Estevao replaced him, because he was brilliant in that game. And I think that's probably going to be the next game we see him start, is when Chelsea play West Ham at home. So that, to me, seems like the perfect opportunity to give him a start, let him build up some confidence. And he actually reminds me a lot of when Cole Palmer first came into the team at Chelsea, because we've heard that he wants to play this kind of number 10 position. I think long-term, whilst Palmer's at Chelsea, they're not going to, they can't both play there. So he's probably going to be more of a right-sided player with Palmer in the centre, or vice versa. But he does remind me a lot of Palmer. Does he remind you of Palmer in the same way?
I think so, especially in Cole Palmer's absence now. Estevao is the next best thing in terms of offering creativity, such great football IQ at such a young age, the player that gets you off the edge of your seat. Like, when Estevao's warming up at Stamford Bridge, instantly the whole place is livelier. I mean, if an 18-year-old can elicit that reaction, and then coming onto the pitch and just igniting us, he gets the reaction from the fans. He is that brilliant, and I mean, obviously, most famously, the winner against Liverpool, which was my absolute favourite moment of watching him. But yeah, absolutely, Lloyd, you're right, and we need that creativity right now, especially when our football is so dire, when football has become just quite systematic in a way where wingers don't have so much license to roam free. Estevao is a player who deserves to have the license to roam free, and you see him sometimes come in centrally as well and get involved in different areas. Is he on the right? Is he on the left? He's absolutely everywhere in those attacking spaces, and he is so deserving. And what I will say to him, is he young? Yes, so was Lamine Yamal when he was 16 and phenomenal, and nobody inhibited him from growing and playing. Yes, I do agree there is obviously a management there. You see his bookings as well, they're still quite naive. You can see the kids in him, but that will grow. So I think we need to start him right now in this run as well. It gives you a way to ease him in slowly, but he is always playing with a point to prove, but I think he's already proved himself. But yeah, we'll manage him slowly, but he's an absolute starter for me.
The other thing that occurs to me, there's different types of football bravery. When I remember watching Palmer in his first season, when they were struggling, when Chelsea was struggling under Pochettino, and what impressed me most, almost as much as the goals and the creativity, was his willingness to receive the ball quite deep in his own half with his back to goal, and to offer to give his defenders an outlet, not to be afraid to get the ball and possibly lose it. And I think that maybe is an aspect of his game that Estevao is going to have to develop, to not so much the defensive side, because we've seen him do huge lung-busting runs to get back and make tackles, but just helping in the build-up a little bit more in a deeper role, probably against the better and stronger teams. But I think the two of them overall, the thing they have in common is that bravery, the willingness to get kicked. Let's be honest about it, but also to show and get the ball and not be afraid to not disappear at times when it's difficult. And I think that's what marks out the very good players from the potential greats. Not that I want to add to the hype too much.
Well, he is a potential great. I mean, the potential definitely is there. He's already shown that in abundance. But I want to talk about another Brazilian as well, which is João Pedro, because 2 goals in 2 games for him now in the Premier League. And he seems to be really developing. But the problem with João Pedro, for me at least, has been that kind of consistency, and I think the favourable run of games that they've got is going to allow him, hopefully, to kick on and build up a run of games and a run of goals, because he's been competing with Delap, who, the less I say about Liam Delap so far, the better. But Nina, do you think he can become the number 9 Chelsea need? Because he is that kind of 9.5 player, but can he kick on and become that number 9, or do you think maybe he's not quite there?
I mean, I want to say I really hope so. I don't think he's quite there yet. I mean, I think the João Pedro we saw at the Club World Cup and some of those finishes, especially in the semi-final and the final as well, it was what you want to see from a number 9, right? But then there's so much discourse still about his best position. Is he a 10? Is he better out wide? Is he better up top? And I just think that the fact that we're talking about that means he's not particularly comfortable in that role. Sometimes he's way too deep. He reminds me often of Nicholas Jackson doing the work where he comes from deep, he's holding up play, he's making space for other players, but we just need João Pedro to just be a bit more of a target man, I feel, at times. And I won't blame him entirely, because I think the way that we've been playing is so heavily reliant on our wingers. You know, we play out wide, we're passing it out through our Netos, our Nachos, whatever, that our central players, the 10 and the 9, are almost kind of shut out from the game, so they are often isolated. But we do need João Pedro to definitely score more goals. He's doing that now. We saw the Brentford finish was very instinctive. That's exactly what you want to see more of. I think he just needs to build his confidence now with a few more goals. But unfortunately, it's difficult, because I imagine next game, Delap will probably start, so it's very difficult to build your confidence and your momentum. But you know, we need more goals from Delap. I agree with you, Lloyd. I'm not a big fan from what I've seen. You know, he gets booked more than he scores. You're not Diego Costa, mate. You can't have that same attitude. So but we will believe in him, right? He's shown us that he can be good for us. I liked his runs yesterday against Crystal Palace. He was sprinting up. He was trying to help Estevao and offer an option there. So we just need to see more. I think consistency is a big question mark for him.
I think they've got a really good relationship, Estevao and João Pedro. And the other player in that kind of Brazilian trio is Andre Santos. One of my favourite players, actually, because I went out to Strasbourg to watch him last season. And ever since I was watching him, I kind of was staying up and watching these games, and he was really, really impressive at Strasbourg under Rossinha. Didn't quite all fall into place for him as he probably would have hoped at Chelsea under Maresca. But I think he's had a real rejuvenation, a real good start to life under Liam Rossinha. Did you see that yesterday?
I certainly saw it yesterday. I'm not... Even in the couple of the early games of Rossinha, I think one of the problems that Santos has had is that, you know, he's very good at getting around the pitch, and he's decent physical presence. He likes to tackle. That's fine. But some of it, he's been misplacing a lot of passes, even quite routine short passes. It looked really nervous. But one of the things that Rossinha said yesterday, he played he mucked about with the formation yesterday, which was obviously they couldn't go back to playing the same way as they played against Palace in the 0-0 back at the start of the season. They needed to do something different. So they Rossinha described it as a semi-4, semi-5 at the back. So Santos was dropping back almost into a back 3 with Badiashile and Chalobah, which is allowing the fullbacks to push forward a bit more. And he was happy to pick the ball up off the defence but already be facing forward rather than have his back to goal and just be like popping balls off. And I think that suited him. I think, you know, he had his head up and he could see the game better and work out, do I need to make a pass here, or am I going to run? I think it was definitely his most effective performance in a Chelsea shirt.
100%.
Certainly in the league. I think he's still got a long way to go to show that he is the answer for when, you know, Caicedo's tired or injured or Fernandes
or suspended
or suspended and so on. But I think that was a really encouraging sign for him yesterday.
Yeah, I think he was really, really good yesterday, and I spoke to him and he said he's feeling way more confident under Rossinha, and so is the rest of the team. But anyway, enough about the Palace game. Let's move on to the Champions League. It's going to be a big target for Chelsea this season to try and win the Champions League, because they're obviously pretty much out of the Premier League. They've probably been out of the Premier League title race for a while now. But yeah, they've still got 3 competitions that they're competing in. The Champions League, the biggest one of those, and the one that they'll focus the most importance on. The win against Paphos got them back into the top 8, but now they've got to beat Napoli really to confirm that status. And how important is it? I think it's probably more important that they get that top 8 place to avoid having to play 2 extra games, rather than the fact that they'll be through to the last 16, because you probably back them to get through a playoff anyway. It's just a matter of playing even more games in such a congested season.
Yeah, I mean, if you can dodge a playoff game, I say do it, right? And it's a winnable fixture. I mean, Napoli aren't in their finest form. They lost to Juventus as well last night. I think it was 3-0, I believe. So, you know, they're not on a great run, but it is Conte at the end of the day, you have to say. It's a tough stadium to go to as well. And, you know, they're going to look at that fixture and throw everything at it, because it means that their Champions League campaign's on the line as well. So I think it will be difficult. It would be naive to underestimate it as well. But I think with what we've got going now with 3 wins, use that momentum and self-esteem to go out there and put on a statement win. You've got a chance to make it 4 in a row. That's something we haven't done in a very long time, I think, since probably Maresca at the start of the season. So it's hugely important, I think, and I don't turn my nose up at it. I don't want to play those extra 2 games. Like you say, Lloyd, it's a congested fixture list, and if we're managing players from injuries, etc., it's important that you just get the job done and secure that top 8 if you can.
No, and Rossini said himself straight after the Paphos game, obviously he doesn't want the other 2 games because one of the big disadvantages of coming in as a manager in the middle of the season is that you haven't had your pre-season to put your ideas in, and if you're trying to tweak how the team is playing, you don't have time. You're literally playing a game, recovery session, pre-match again, and it just goes like that. There's no time to work on the fundamentals of a thing. And if you were able to get 2 midweeks free, I know this midweek and next week's midweek are my first midweeks free for ages, so I know how much I'm looking forward to those.
What are we going to do on a Wednesday night?
I'm going to sit in and watch binge Slow Horses. No, of course I shall still be watching Napoli Chelsea, but I think it would just give them a chance to actually have a couple of days off, which I'd imagine he would take advantage of, but it would also give him a chance to start working on things which he obviously wants to do, such as passing the ball out from the back and experimenting with some of these shapes. But again, he was very happy with how quickly they took on information for that slightly new formation against Palace. But yeah, I think it would be an absolute godsend, not just for us, but for Rossini if he had a couple of midweeks without travelling.
Yeah, there's a few interesting things for me about this Napoli game. The first being that, like you mentioned, is Conte. Obviously, we know Conte likes a pretty defensive approach, a low block, which Chelsea have struggled with at times. But Napoli have got to win this game, so they're likely to come out and be a bit more forthcoming, a bit more attacking. And a few players at Napoli have history with Chelsea, the likes of Kevin De Bruyne, Romelu Lukaku. I think is Billy Gilmore still at Napoli as well. Yeah. So. And obviously, Scott McTominay is a brilliant player for them, no history with Chelsea, but will be keen to impress against English opposition, having spent a lot of time at Manchester United. Those players, how much of a threat do they kind of pose to Chelsea, especially if they're going to come out and be a more attacking setup than what they traditionally are?
Yeah, massively. And I still worry about our defence. I think that is our biggest frailty. I think from the start of the season it has been, and it continues to be. Yeah, you look at the clean sheets, fine, but we haven't been particularly tested, I wouldn't say, in the last 3 games. Obviously, Dan mentioned Mateta's chance. We talked about the Crystal Palace opportunities, but I think defensively, one-on-one, that's our weakest point. And I think our centre-back pairing is going to be exactly very important. A very physical forward you're looking at there. How do you manage him? I think that's Rosini's biggest, perhaps, test there as well, with what he chooses to do. We're not particularly spoilt for choice, though, with centre-back pairings at the moment. We saw Badiashile start his defender. I am not very keen on seeing, but unfortunately, right now, you look at Fofana, you think, is he fit to start? Is he fit to play? I think right now what we have the very best is probably him alongside Chalobah, maybe. But do you opt for a little bit more height and play maybe a toes in? I don't know. But yeah, it's a difficult one. Lukaku's a hard one to lock down, and if he is, he's got his clinical boots on, he can score from pretty much 2-3 opportunities, and that's enough to harm you. So defensively, we need to be switched on. Fullbacks, we know Cucurella and Reece James. If Reece is kind of deployed out at right back, I trust him a lot. Cucurella also, he's been on a bit of a funny dip in the last few games, but those two at their very best, they're quite good at shutting wingers out. So I don't worry too much as opposed to worrying about that centre-back duo there.
I wonder if we're going to see in Naples, and albeit that James played 74 minutes of the Palace game. I think what we're likely to see, obviously Fofana didn't play most of the game against Palace. I don't think he's saying him. I would think with Fofana, with the way he's willing to step out of defence and go with someone like Lukaku who will drop off and then try and turn him, and he's got the recovery speed as well. I think it might well be Fofana who is man marking Lukaku. Then again, because Malo Gusto, albeit he had an injury, he was back. I would expect probably it to be Malo Gusto, Fofana and James in midfield. I think, and just to get the strength of those 3 together, I think will be pretty important. And I think in a game where you want to have control, you don't want to let the crowd get up. You don't want to concede any goals, but you don't want to concede an early goal. I think Rossini will go a little bit more defence minded, but knowing that in those players and Gusto as well. I mean, when Gusto's played, he's almost been playing as a right winger.
It's great attacking.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that'll be the little triumvirate on the right side of Chelsea, which. Can
you have a word with Rosenior, Dan?
No. Honestly, I don't think I need to have a word. I think that's what.
That's what
do, especially as Santos started again. So I think it will be Reece James and Caicedo midfield and Fernandes probably again in that position, or potentially, if Palmer is fit, then maybe Palmer. But I'd be surprised if Palmer, the amount of time he's missed. I'd be surprised if he started in Naples.
I think it's interesting with Napoli because they've got those two kind of midfield players who can really hurt you. Most teams have got a kind of central number 10, and then you've got either a Reece James or a Caicedo that you can put on that player. But with Napoli, it's like De Bruyne and McTominay, and so they're both going to have someone to really keep an eye on. And obviously the way McTominay pushes forward, almost playing as like a number 10 or like a second striker at times, it's going to be probably Chalobah and James, or Chalobah and Caicedo, who really need to communicate and be on top of their game to stop those kind of players who can be really, really creative.
I think given McTominay's mobility, I would think that Caicedo will be the man. He'll be following
James
him.
On De Bruyne.
James on De Bruyne, I think.
Yeah, and the last thing we're going to speak about, just to round out the episode, is of course we're still in January. The transfer window is still ongoing. We've heard a lot about Jeremy Jacquet? How are we talking about him?
Yeah.
And the other thing that happened yesterday that I've been reporting on today is Aaron Anselmino being recalled. Dortmund are pretty furious that he's coming back, and also they posted a video of him this morning. He was actually in tears presumably over his love for Dortmund rather than coming back to Chelsea. But what do you think of those moves? Are you happy that Anselmino's coming back, and what do you think of Chelsea kind of recalling those defensive options rather than dipping into the market, maybe buying someone more experienced?
I think it's just the easiest thing to do, isn't it, at the moment? And we're not particularly inspiring in the transfer window anyway. You mentioned Jeremy Jacquet. He's a great talent. Again, that's it. He's a talent. He's not proven. He's not particularly had a lot of time playing senior football. So I don't know. It just seems like we keep looking at those what-if players. I still think we need so much more experience, especially in your back line. Never replaced even a smidge of what Thiago Silva offered there at that back line. And it's a big
Rudiger.
loss. Or Rudiger even. Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah, my heart hurts.
Sorry.
Yeah. So exactly. And I always say, I mean, the reason that half our defenders looked even remotely decent was because they had Thiago Silva alongside them. Experience goes a long way. It goes beyond footballing abilities and qualities. It's so much more about just that leadership and having that player that ties everyone in. And if you keep bringing in those sort of what-if players, who are they learning from? You know what I mean? You bring them in, but you're sort of just letting them learn on the job, and nothing changes.
Or learn from Chalobah and Tosin.
Chalobah, a player who's considered for sale every window and isn't even in the long-term plans, and I guess that's the issue. And Tosin and Chalobah and Badiashile, and just it doesn't feel very reliable, So Jeremy Jacquet, he could be the next best talent. I think the fact that big clubs are looking at him is telling something. So maybe there is something in there, but just not at this present moment. Anselmino, again, I mean, we pretty much might see him get loaned out again anyway. I mean, how much really scope is there for him to play in the Chelsea first team? Maybe a bench option,
Just
perhaps.
seems
And ahead of Ajampong as well. I mean, what's Josh Ajampong's
going to do, right? I mean,
route?
It doesn't really make sense when you look at it and you think, what are the ideas here? And I think that the fact that we keep asking ourselves what's the vision here is quite telling. I'm really not sure.
I think if they, obviously they have recalled him, but if you recall him, it has to be with a vision for him to play at least some minutes, because he was doing really well at Dortmund.
And you're halting his development because he was actually getting some game time.
He's played 10 games. He had an injury, admittedly, but he was really kicking on for Dortmund, getting top flight European experience, getting Champions League experience. He was likely going to play against Inter Milan when they play on Wednesday. And then you just bring him back,
no wonder he's in tears.
Make it make sense.
But it looks like, even if the Jacquet thing goes ahead, that he'll be
signed in the summer.
The Rennes will insist on him being loaned back.
Yeah.
So he's not going to be coming in. So I don't think there are going to be any really significant incomings. It's going to be more about the out. Is Disasi going to get a move? Is Tyreek George going to get a move? Is Raheem? Is anyone at Chelsea going to speak to Raheem Sterling? Let alone arrange a move for him? And I think that's probably right. We remember the January 3 years ago where Chelsea went absolutely crazy, and some big hits in that window, some big misses. You say
story of our lives.
Yeah, and traditionally, it's not a time to get value. I'm still surprised that they're not. Given that Asugo seems to have injured himself and will be out again for a while, I'm surprised that they haven't been told that. I was told that the Douglas Luiz move could happen almost as soon as the day after Forest's Europa League, and then that's now gone very quiet. I would again, like all Chelsea fans have been saying, just a little bit of experience here and there. And Douglas Luiz has not pulled up any trees at the Juventus or at Forest, but he does at least have. He's 27 years old. He's got Champions League and Premier League experience, and can therefore, fill in those gaps. But maybe Santos will be the answer, and maybe Santos's improvement on the training ground and on the pitch has made them think, do you know what? Maybe we don't need another body in there.
Not pulled up any trees at Forest. We're going to leave you with that piece of brilliance from Dan King. Thank you very much for joining us on this episode of the Chelsea Blueprint. Let us know in the comments what you think of Chelsea's transfer window, what you thought of the game against Palace, and if you think Chelsea will finish in the top 8 with a win against Napoli. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Thank you again. Goodbye.